In 2018, a patient in a hospital outside Chicago was receiving insulin by way of an infusion pump. The pump was cleared, the hospital had protocols, the nurses were trained, and the patient received a fatal overdose. The investigation found that the pump's dose confirmed the interface had a design flaw. Under certain lighting conditions, the decimal point on the display was nearly invisible. A nurse entered 10 units. The pump delivered 100. No one set out to hurt that patient. Every person involved was doing their job. But somewhere in the design process, a critical question never got asked. What happens if the user misreads this display? That question has a name. It's called risk management. For medical devices, there is one standard that defines exactly how you must answer it. That standard is ISO 14971. This course is about that standard in its practical form. Not the abstract version, not the compliance checkbox version, but the version you actually use to protect patients and get your device to market. My name is Dave Saunders. I work with medical device companies every day on exactly this, building risk management systems that satisfy regulators, protect patients, and hold up under audit. And throughout this course, we will work on one device together, the WearPump. WearPump is a wearable subcutaneous insulin infusion pump for people with type 1 diabetes. The patient attaches the device to their abdomen or upper arm. A soft cannula sits just under the skin. The device delivers insulin continuously in microdoses, adjusted through a Bluetooth-connected companion app on their phone. The device carries a 3 milliliter insulin reservoir. It runs up to 72 hours on a single charge, meets IPX4 splash resistance, and uses a hypoallergenic adhesive designed for people who wear it around the clock through sleep, exercise, and daily activity. Here is why WearPump makes a great teaching example. It sits at the intersection of almost every risk category that ISO 14971 cares about. Drug-device combination risk, because insulin is a high-alert medication. Software risk, because the BLE connection and dosing algorithm are regulated components. Human factors risk, because patients self-manage this device at home. Biocompatibility risk, and use error risk, because a wrong dose can kill. If we can build a rigorous risk management file for WearPump, you can build one for anything. Here is what you're going to learn in this module and what this course delivers across all 12 modules. In the next 22 to 25 minutes, what ISO 14971 is and why it exists, what the standard actually requires you to do, why regulators do not give you a choice about doing it, and how to structure your risk management file so you are building on solid ground from day one. This is Module 1 of a 12-module masterclass. Each module follows the ISO 14971 risk management process from start to finish, and in every module, we apply the concept directly to WearPump. By the end of this course, you will not just understand the standard, you will have a working risk management file built on a real device that you can adapt directly to your own. Every module builds on the one before it. This one covers the foundation. So let's start with the basics. ISO 14971 is the international standard for applying risk management to medical devices. The full title is Medical Devices: Application of Risk Management to Medical Devices. The current edition is the third, published in 2019, developed by the International Organization for Standardization with input from regulators, manufacturers, and clinical experts worldwide. And here's what makes this standard different from most guidance documents. It's not just a best practice. Regulators around the world have tied it directly to their legal requirements. That changes everything about how you treat it. In the United States, the FDA expects manufacturers to have a formal, documented risk management process. Conformance to ISO 14971 is the accepted way to demonstrate you have one. In the European Union, the medical device regulation requires risk management that meets the principles of ISO 14971 as a condition of CE marketing. Health Canada, Australia's TGA, Japan's PMDA, the list goes on. What this means practically: if you sell medical devices in any major market, you are not optional on ISO 14971. It is the price of admission. Most companies treat it like a burden, a box to check before submission, and that's exactly backwards. The companies that use ISO 14971 well do not just satisfy regulators. They make better devices. They catch problems earlier. They spend less time on design changes after verification testing fails. They get fewer Form 483 observations. Their risk files hold together under audit because they actually reflect what the engineering team decided and why. Let's look at what ISO 14971 2019 version actually contains, because the structure of the standard is the structure of your risk management process. Clause 1 defines the scope. Medical devices, all of them, from a simple tongue depressor to a life-sustaining cardiac device to software running on a smartphone. If it's a medical device under your applicable regulatory definition, ISO 14971 applies. WearPump qualifies on every count, as a device, as a drug delivery system, and as software. Clause 3 is terms and definitions. This is where the standard defines hazard, harm, risk, and risk control with precision. We will cover those definitions in depth in a moment. Read Clause 3 carefully. Every defined term matters, and they will come up in your risk file. Clause 4 is where you set up your risk management system, your policy, your team structure, your document control approach. Think of it as your risk management constitution. It comes before you touch a single hazard. Clauses 5 through 9 define the heart of the standard, a 5-step process. Identify hazards, estimate the risk from each hazard, evaluate whether that risk is acceptable, apply controls to reduce unacceptable risks, evaluate the residual risk that remains after your controls. Clause 9 adds a view above the individual hazard level, overall residual risk evaluation and risk-benefit analysis. If you're looking at the totality of risk your device presents and asking whether the benefits to patients justify that cumulative risk, Clause 10 takes the process into production and post-market. The file lives and breathes as long as the device is on the market. Everything you do in this process gets documented in one place. Every hazard you identify, every risk you estimate, every control you implement. That's your risk management file. We will build it together throughout this course, starting right now. There are 4 words you need to own before we go any further: hazard, hazardous situation, harm, and risk. These words have specific definitions in ISO 14971. If you use them loosely, your risk file will fall apart under audit. These are not interchangeable. They are not synonyms. A hazard is a potential source of harm, not the harm itself. For WearPump, one example of a hazard is the possibility that the dose calculation algorithm contains an error. The algorithm exists. Under certain conditions, it could produce a wrong output. That potential, that source, is the hazard. Between the hazard and the harm, the standard introduces the hazardous situation. This is the state where a person is actually exposed to the hazard. The algorithm error is the hazard. The patient pressing confirm on a wrong dose display is the hazardous situation. The patient is now in the path of that hazard. A harm is the actual physical injury or damage to health that results. If the algorithm produces a wrong output and the patient receives an excessive dose, the harm is hypoglycemia, low blood sugar. Severe hypoglycemia causes loss of consciousness. Extended severe hypoglycemia causes brain damage or death. Those are harms. Risk is the combination of the probability of occurrence of harm and the severity of that harm. Your risk estimation step involves assigning values to both. How likely is this harm to occur? How severe would it be if it did? So write these 4 words down right now. Hazard, hazardous situation, harm, risk. When your risk file uses them precisely and consistently, reviewers and auditors know you understand the standard. When the file mixes them up, you're sending a signal that you don't. That signal costs you time, review cycles, audit findings, and sometimes warning letters. Now let's look at this from the regulator's side. Why do they require all of this? Why isn't it enough to build a good device and test it thoroughly? The answer shifts how you think about risk management entirely. Regulators are working with incomplete information. When the FDA reviews a 510K or a PMA, they have thousands of pages of documentation. But they were not in your design lab. They did not see every engineering decision. They do not know the assumptions your team made when you chose that specific microcontroller. They cannot evaluate every failure mode of every component. What they can evaluate is your process. Did you have a systematic approach to finding hazards? Did you estimate risks against defined, pre-specified criteria? Did you implement controls and verify they work? Did you document all of it in a way that can be reviewed and audited? That's what ISO 14971 gives regulators, a framework they can audit. Think about it from the manufacturer's perspective. Your device is yours. You designed it. You understand it better than any regulators ever will. ISO 14971 gives you both the responsibility and the authority to make your own safety decisions. But you have to show your work. Your decisions have to be systematic and defensible, not intuitive guesses. When you get that right, regulatory submissions move faster. Review questions are easier to answer. Audit observations are rarer. And when something does go wrong in the field, which in any device's lifetime something eventually will, you have a documented system that shows you acted responsibly and systematically. That matters enormously in the context of recalls, adverse event investigations, and legal proceedings. The companies that invest in this process don't do it only because regulators told them to. They do it because it works. It catches problems at the design stage where fixing them costs thousands of dollars, rather than at the post-market stage where fixing them costs millions. Clause 1 of ISO 14971 defines the scope. In plain language, it applies to medical devices throughout their entire life cycle, from the first design concept to final market withdrawal. It applies to all categories: hardware, software, combination products, accessories, and in vitro diagnostics. For WearPump, Clause 1 has a specific implication worth calling out directly. WearPump is not just a hardware device. It has 3 elements that each need to be captured in the risk management process, and each brings its own risk category. First, the physical device, the pump body, cannula, reservoir, adhesive. These carry hardware risks: mechanical failure, material degradation, adhesion failure, insertion site complications. Second, the software, the dose calculation algorithm, the BLE communication stack, the companion app. Under ISO 14971 and the related standard IEC 62304, These software components carry their own risk classification requirements. Your risk management file must address software risks explicitly. You can't separate the software risk analysis into a parallel system that never touches the main risk file. The standard requires integration. Third, the drug-device interface. WearPump delivers insulin, which the Institute for Safe Medication Practices designates as one of the drugs most likely to cause serious patient harm if used in error. That intersection of a regulated drug and a regulated device creates a category of risks that neither a pure device standard nor a pure pharmaceutical guideline fully covers. ISO 14971 is the framework that brings them together. The practical implication of Clause 1, you can't scope your risk management file to the hardware only. You can't leave the companion app out because your software team is managing it in a separate system. You can't treat insulin dose precision as a pharmacy problem outside your scope. The standard covers the entire device in every configuration, across every intended use, and for every reasonably foreseeable misuse. There's something in the introduction to ISO 14971 that most people miss entirely because they skim past it on the way to the clauses. No medical device is risk-free. None of them. Not a bandage, not a stethoscope, certainly not an insulin pump that sits on a patient's body and delivers a high-alert drug for 3 days at a stretch. Every device that exists has some potential to cause harm. That's not a failure of engineering, it's a fundamental truth about physical systems operating in contact with human biology. The goal of ISO 14971 is not to eliminate risk. The goal is to reduce risk to an acceptable level where the benefits the device provides to patients are greater than the residual risks that remain after you've done everything reasonable to control them. This is a critical distinction. You're not trying to prove your device is safe in some absolute sense. You're making a documented, systematic case. For WearPump, the clinical benefit case is strong. Type 1 diabetes requires insulin. Continuous subcutaneous insulin infusion has decades of clinical evidence showing it provides better glycemic control than multiple daily injections for many patients. The question ISO 14971 asks you to answer isn't, is this device perfect? It's, is the residual risk acceptable in the context of what it offers to patients who need it? That's a question you can answer, but you can only answer it with documentation. A systematic risk management process, evidence that you identified the hazards, estimated the risks, controlled the unacceptable ones, and evaluated what remained. That is the work this course prepares you to do. Let's get practical. Right now, before we've identified a single hazard, let's look at what the risk management file needs to contain from day one. The risk management file is not a single document. It's a structured collection of records. Every hazard you identify, every risk estimation, every control, every verification record, every post-market review. The file has to exist before any design decision of consequence is made. Clause 4 requires that you establish your risk management plan at the beginning of design and development. If you're already deep into detailed design and you haven't started your risk file, you're already behind. That doesn't mean you can't start now, you can, but you'll need to reconstruct the reasoning behind decisions that have already been made. For WearPump, here's what goes into the risk file before you write a single hazard. First entry, the device description and intended use. WearPump's intended use statement, a wearable subcutaneous insulin infusion pump for continuous subcutaneous insulin infusion in adult patients with type 1 diabetes for use in home and ambulatory environments, managed by the patient or a trained caregiver for wear periods up to 72 hours per application. Every word in that statement is a load-bearing wall. Second entry, scope of risk management activities. In scope for WearPump, the pump hardware, companion app, cannula insertion system, adhesive, and insulin delivery control interface. Out of scope, the insulin drug product itself, but the interaction between the device and the drug is firmly in scope. Third entry, the risk management team. For WearPump, the team includes a quality or risk management engineer, a design engineer, a software engineer, a clinical or medical affairs representative, a regulatory affairs lead, and a human factors specialist. These people own the risk file jointly. No single person can run this alone, not because of capability, because of perspective. Different disciplines see different failure modes. Fourth entry, your criteria for risk acceptability. Before you evaluate a single risk, you have to decide what acceptable risk means for your device. We'll spend an entire module on this decision later in this course, but the criteria go into the file now, even as placeholders marked for review, because your evaluation logic depends on having criteria before you start scoring risks. Let's take a first look at the risk landscape for WearPump. Not the full analysis, that comes in modules 3 through 6, the high-level picture of what we're dealing with, so you understand the stakes as we build the process. Drug delivery risks are the most severe on the potential harm scale. WearPump delivers insulin, which has a narrow therapeutic window. Too little, and the patient moves towards diabetic ketoacidosis. Too much, and they develop hypoglycemia. Severe hypoglycemia kills. The harm spectrum runs from reversible, mild symptoms all the way to fatal outcomes. On a severity scale, we are working with catastrophic harm, severity level 5, as a genuine possibility. Software risks are substantial. The dose calculation algorithm runs on every delivery cycle. If it contains an error, if the BLE connection drops during a critical configuration change, if the app misinterprets a user input, any of these translates directly into an incorrect dose. Software failures in drug delivery devices have caused real-world fatalities. Your software risk analysis can't be superficial. Human factors risks reflect the reality of who uses this device and how. WearPump patients manage it while cooking, exercising, sleeping, and caring for children. They manage it when their blood sugar is low and their condition is impaired, in bathrooms, gyms, airplanes, restaurants. Use errors are not edge cases in this population. They are design inputs. Your risk file must treat them that way. Good risk management doesn't make this territory less dangerous. It gives you a systematic way to work through it. Find the hazards before your device encounters them on a patient. Here's your preview of the full course and how it maps to the ISO 14971 process. ISO 14971 defines a process with a clear beginning, a clear end, and a feedback loop that keeps running as long as your device is on the market. We're going to walk through all of it. Module 2 covers risk management planning, the constitution of your risk management process, and most companies struggle with this in the beginning. Module 3 moves into hazard identification. This is where the process gets both creative and comprehensive. You're generating a list of every way your device could harm someone. For WearPump, this list will be long. Module 4 covers risk estimation. For each hazard, you assign probability and severity. Module 5 is risk evaluation. You compare each estimated risk against your pre-specified criteria and learn which ones need controls. Module 6 is risk control. This is where engineering does its heavy lifting. Module 7 covers residual risk after controls. Module 8 addresses the benefit risk determination at the device level. Beyond that, post-production surveillance, software risk under IEC 62304, usability engineering under IEC 62366, and the clinical risk-benefit case under EU MDR specifically. By the end of this course, you'll have built a complete risk management file for a real device. You take that template, adapt it to your own device, and you have a risk file that reflects the actual standard, not a downloaded form with blank fields and no clinical context. Every module ends with specific actions for the week, not concepts to think about, actions you complete before you watch the next module. Action 1. Get ISO 14971-2019 and read Clause 1 and Clause 3. Not a summary, not a paraphrase, the actual document. You can purchase it through ISO, through ANSI, through BSI. Budget about 30 minutes to read Clauses 1 and 3 carefully. You don't need to memorize them at this stage. You need to understand the framework and the key terms. Action 2. Draft your intended use statement for your device. 1 paragraph. Answer these questions in order. What does the device do? Who uses it? Where do they use it? What medical device condition or clinical purpose does it address? How long is each use? The intended use statement is the foundation every hazard identification exercise starts from. If it's vague, your hazard list will have gaps. Action 3. Write down the names of 5 people who belong on your risk management team: a quality or regulatory lead, a design engineer, a software engineer, a clinical or medical affairs representative, a human factors specialist. If you're a small startup and some of these roles don't exist yet, identify who's covering each function. Your risk management team doesn't need to be large. It needs to be cross-functional. Before you move to Module 2, think about the device you're working on right now. Whether you're early in the design, deep in verification, or already in post-market surveillance, what is the single highest consequence harm your device could cause? Not the most likely harm, the most severe one, the one that, if it happened, would be catastrophic for a patient and your company. Now, do you have a documented process for managing that risk? Not a mental model, not a verbal agreement among your team. A documented process that an auditor could review, that your quality system owns, that will hold up when somebody asks you to defend your safety decisions in a regulatory submission, in an audit, or in front of a judge. Drop your answer in the comments. I want to know where you're starting from. I'm Dave Saunders. I work with medical device companies on exactly this: building risk management systems that satisfy regulators, protect patients, and hold up under audit. For templates and consulting, head to baserealitygroup.com, subscribe to this channel so you get Module 2, which covers risk management planning and is where the real work of building your risk file begins.